Hello and good morning, folks. Yeah, Friday, and this is the subject I chose today. And this is this will be the DOJ's report came out yesterday. There was a press conference held yesterday. When I checked it this morning, my time, it has been severely underreported, in my opinion. So I don't know how much this stream will help, but for me, it's important enough to do it this way. So for now, the chat will be open and unrestricted, but please don't sway off to Second Amendment and stuff like that. This is about the Uvalde victims and the report on the police conduct. That's so please, because this stream is not about me and our personal opinions in politics and stuff like that. This is about them. Nevea Alisa Bravo, age 10. Jacqueline Sazares, age 9. McKenna Lee Elrod, age 10. Jose Flores Jr., age 10. Elana Amia Garcia, age 9. Irma Linda Garcia, age 48. Ucia Sergio Garcia, age 10. Ameri Logarza, age 10. Xavier James Lopez, age 10. Jace Carmelo Luevanos, age 10. Tess Marie Mata, age 10. Miranda Mathis, age 11. Eva Mireles, age 44. Alicia Haven Ramirez, age 10. Annabelle Guadalupe Rodriguez, age 10. Mate Juliana Rodriguez, age 10. Alexandria Ania Rubio, age 10. Laila Marie Salazar, age 11. Yelila Nicole Silguero, age 10. Elana Cruz Torres, age 10. Rogelio Fernandez Torres, age 10. Pardon me for any mispronunciations. Whew. So now, this stream is not about me, you, it's for them. Uvalde 2022, mass shooting by Salvador Ramos, then 18. Former student fatally shot 19 students and 2 teachers. 17 others were injured but survived. Police officers waited more than 1 hour and 14 minutes before breaching the classroom to engage the shooter. And this is about the Department of Justice report on the police conduct. Whew. We will start off with the press conference, and then we will move on to the actual report. The report is 610 pages, so I might not be going through it all. But there are a few chapters in here. I will not go through the timeline. There are, so I will more or less go directly to the conclusion. And if there is interest, I will go through the entirety. But that I would need at least 3 episodes for. But let's start off with the press conference. And thank you everybody for showing up. And thank you, Jason J, for your $2 super chat. Remember, it's quote unquote just a few bad cops. And you who follow me regularly, you know, yeah, there might be a few bad cops, but there is a lot of silent cops who allows the bad cops to continue. So let's listen to what they have to say.
Good morning. Last night I met with some of the survivors and the loved ones, the victims of the horrific mass shooting at Robb Elementary School. I came here to tell them that the United States Department of Justice has finished its critical incident review. In undertaking this review at the request of the then mayor, the Justice Department committed to using our expertise and independence to assess the law enforcement response to the shooting and provide guidance moving forward. As I told families and survivors last night, the department's review concluded a series of
Hello.
leadership.
So are we arresting the cops that held back parents now?
Training and
This is the report from this Department of Justice and press conference, and then we will move into the conclusion in the report. But if there is interest, I will go through the entirety of that report. But it is 610 pages.
Oh.
And I skimmed through a bit of it. They have words about the police conduct. Let's just say so.
Are all of them 4-letter and rhyme with uck? And idjit?
It's 610 pages of in very many words.
Yeah, pretty much. Although, could they have gotten someone who doesn't look like the cranky Muppet to say this?
Yeah, but let's just listen to what he has to say.
Preparedness were made by law enforcement leaders and others responding to the mass shooting at Robb Elementary. As a result, 33 students and 3 of their teachers, many of whom had been shot, were trapped in a room with an active shooter for over an hour as law enforcement officials remained outside. I also told the families and survivors how deeply sorry I am for the losses they suffered that day and for the losses they have suffered every day since. I told them that the priority for the Justice Department in preparing this report has been to honor the memories of those who were taken from them. And I told the families gathered last night what I hope is clear among the hundreds of pages and thousands of details in this report. Their loved ones deserve better. Law enforcement response at Robb Elementary School on May 24th, 2022, and in the hours and days after, was a failure that should not have happened. We hope to honor the victims and the survivors by working together to try to prevent anything like this from ever happening again, here or anywhere. I'm now going to turn to the key observations and recommendations of the report. On May 24th, 2022 at 11:33 a.m., an active shooter wearing body armor and equipped with a high-power AR-15 rifle entered Robb Elementary School and began shooting into classrooms 111 and 112, which shared a connecting door. Within minutes, 11 law enforcement officers from the Uvalde Consolidated Independent School District and the Uvalde Police Department arrived inside the school. Hearing continued gunfire, 5 officers immediately advanced toward classrooms 111 and 112. Within seconds, shots were fired from inside the classroom. Shrapnel hit 2 officers, and all responders retreated to cover. A single officer then made additional attempts to approach the classrooms, but after 11:40 a.m., no more attempts to enter the rooms were made until 12:48 p.m., more than an hour later. As a consequence of failed leadership, training, and policies, injured and scared students and teachers remain trapped with the subject in the classrooms, waiting to be rescued. Survivors later shared that they heard officers gathered outside the classrooms while they waited. The victims trapped in classroom 111 and 112 were waiting to be rescued at 11:44 a.m., approximately 10 minutes after officers first arrived, when the subject fired another shot inside the classrooms. They were still waiting at 11:56 a.m. when an officer on the scene told law enforcement leaders that his wife, a teacher, was inside room 111 and 112 and had been shot. They were still waiting as broadcasts went out on officer radios that a student trapped inside rooms 111 and had called 911 at 12:10 p.m. to say that the student was in a room full of victims. That student stayed on the phone with 911 for 16 minutes. The victims were still waiting to be rescued when the subject fired 4 more shots inside the classrooms at 12:21 p.m., 49 minutes after officers arrived on the scene. And they were still waiting for another 27 minutes after that, until finally officers entered the classroom and killed the subject. As the victims were trapped and waiting for help, many of their families were waiting outside the school, growing increasingly concerned about why law enforcement had not taken action to rescue their loved ones. Law enforcement officers from different agencies who had self-deployed to the scene in overwhelming numbers were themselves waiting for leadership decisions about how to proceed. Many officers reported that they did not know who, if anyone, was in charge, what they should do, or the status of the incident. Some officers were confused about why there was no attempt to confront the active shooter and rescue the children. Some officers believed the subject had already been killed, or that law enforcement was in the room with the shooter. 75 minutes after the first officers arrived on scene, officers finally
I guess Nick freezed up. Froze up? Possibly. I am not sure. I think I am in charge now. Are you? Can you guys see me? Or is everyone froze? Oh, well, hello everyone. Uh, I guess to refute the confusion, jargon and jumbo. Oh,
Yeah. My internet gave out. So, yeah. Sorry.
oh no, that's okay. I was like, okay, I didn't touch anything. I made sure I was in chat and not touching buttons in the thingamabob.
Yeah. 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 Sorry about that. Apparently, my router decided it's time to update, and so I had to switch over to mobile phone. Yeah. All right. Let's continue. I'm backing up a minute of what you might have missed before I realized I was out of this.
Was in the room with the shooter. 75 minutes after the first officers arrived on scene, officers finally entered room 111. The subject engaged the entry team with gunfire, and the officers responded with fire. 77 minutes after the first officers arrived on the scene, and after 45 rounds had been fired by the active shooter, the shooter was killed. The massacre at Robb Elementary shattered families throughout this community and devastated our country. 19 children and 2 teachers were killed, and untold numbers of students, teachers, and law enforcement officers were injured. The law enforcement response to the mass shooting at Robb Elementary was a failure. As the threat posed to our country by mass shootings has grown and evolved over the past several decades, law enforcement's response tactics have also changed. The massacre at Columbine High School 25 years ago, and the 47 minutes it took for law.
This was supposed to be a press conference about Uvalde and the Department of Justice report. And this asshole is doing a political speech.
well, what I think he is trying to explain, and what I think this is going to end up working against the Uvalde police, is that protocols and standards have changed since these things started happening more recently. And since 9/11, cross-department, head leadership, these kind of situations, I don't know if if this is starting to outline how terribly they went wrong. But if he starts going into force enhancement violence, I am going to have some violence, allegedly, with my thought patterns in Minecraft.
Yeah. Now, I said I would stream this, so let's just...
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No worries.
Enforcement to enter that high school marked a major shift in how law enforcement leaders think about responding to mass shootings. It is now widely understood by law enforcement agencies across the country that in active shooter incidents, time is not on the side of law enforcement. Every second counts. And the priority of law enforcement must be to immediately enter the room and stop the shooter with whatever weapons and tools officers have with them. That is the approach responding officers first employed when they arrived at Robb Elementary School. But within minutes of arriving inside the school, Officials on scene transitioned from treating the scene as an active shooter situation to treating the shooter as a barricaded subject. This was the most significant failure. That failure meant that law enforcement officials prioritized the protracted evacuation of students and teachers in other classrooms instead of immediately rescuing the victims trapped with the active shooter. It meant that officials spent time trying to negotiate with the subject instead of entering the room and confronting him. It meant that officials asked for and waited for additional responders and equipment instead of following generally accepted active shooter practice and moving toward the shooter with the resources they had. It meant waiting for a set of keys to open the classroom door, which the report concludes was likely unlocked anyway. And it meant that the victims remained trapped with the shooter for more than an hour after the first officers arrived on scene. There were also other failures in leadership, command, and coordination. None of the law enforcement leaders at the scene established an incident command structure to provide timely direction, control, and coordination among the enormous number of responders who arrived on scene. This lack of a command structure, exacerbated by communication difficulties, contributed to confusion among responders about who was in charge and how they could help. These failures may also have been influenced by policy and training deficiencies at responding law enforcement agencies. Some lacked any active shooter training at all. Some had inappropriate training. Some lacked critical incident response training, and the vast majority had never trained together with different agencies. As Associate Attorney General Benita Gupta will discuss in further detail, the chaos and confusion that defined the law enforcement response while the shooter remained a threat also defined the aftermath of the shooting. For example, surviving victims, some with bullet wounds and other injuries, were put on buses without being brought to the attention of medics. Some families were told that their family members had survived when they had not. And victims, families, and community members struggled to receive timely and accurate information about what had occurred at Robb Elementary. The Justice Department's objective in preparing this report was threefold. First, to honor the victims, the survivors, and their loved ones. Second, to provide a clear and independent accounting of the law enforcement response to the horrific attack that devastated this community. And third, to provide law enforcement agencies and communities across the country with analysis and recommendations about how what happened at Uvalde should inform efforts to prepare themselves for and respond to mass shootings. Policing is a noble profession. It is also a hard one. It requires training and constant education about evolving threats. The report includes widely accepted recommendations that have been adopted by law enforcement agencies across the country about how to prepare for and respond to active shooter situations. Before an active shooter incident occurs, law enforcement agencies have a responsibility to ensure that their leaders and all their officers are trained to focus on rapid response, trained that the first officers on the scene must focus on eliminating the threat and protecting the victims most in danger. Law enforcement officers responding to an active shooter must be prepared to take charge, to establish a unified command, and to facilitate communications, operational coordination, and allocation and delivery of resources. They must continually assess and adjust as the incident evolves. And in the aftermath of a mass shooting, law enforcement and government agencies must provide the public with a sense of trust and confidence by communicating openly, clearly, and compassionately during a time in which many are learning the most devastating news that any human being can receive. The victims and survivors of the mass shooting at Robb Elementary on May 24th, 2022 deserve better. First and foremost, the 19 children and their 2 teachers who were stolen from their loved ones should be here today. They never should have been targeted by a mass shooter. We must never forget the shooter's heinous act that day. And the victims and survivors should never have been trapped with that shooter for more than an hour as they waited for their rescue. The families of the victims and survivors deserve more than incomplete, inaccurate, and conflicting communications about the status of their loved ones. This community deserves more than misinformation from officials during and after the attack. Responding officers here in Uvalde, who also lost loved ones and who still bear the emotional scars of that day, deserve the kind of leadership and training that would have prepared them to do the work that was required. Our children deserve better than to grow up in a country where an 18-year-old has easy access to a weapon that belongs on the battlefield, not in a classroom. And communities across the country and the law enforcement officers who protect them deserve better than to be forced to respond to one horrific mass shooting after another. But that is the terrible reality that we face. And so it is a reality that every law enforcement agency in every community across the country must be prepared for. No community and no law enforcement agency should have to face that threat alone. That is why we came to Uvalde, and that is why we are releasing this report. The Justice Department remains committed to working in partnership with communities across the country and with the law enforcement agencies working to protect those communities every day. In particular, we stand ready to help communities and agencies prepared to respond to a terrible incident like the one that occurred here. We have concluded the department's review, but we know that the work of healing here in Uvalde is only beginning. We are humbled and grateful to stand with this community as you remember and honor your loved ones. I will now turn the podium over to Associate Attorney General Vanita Gupta. Her leadership has been key to the department's efforts to conduct an independent, fair, and comprehensive review of the horrific mass shooting of May 24th and its aftermath. I am also grateful to the entire critical incident review team and to the department's COPS office and to the leadership of Hugh Clements for their tireless work. Vanita.
Thank you, Mr. Attorney General. It is hard to look at the truth that the law enforcement response on May 24th was an unimaginable failure and that a lack of action by adults failed to protect children and their teachers. But we cannot look away from what happened here. We cannot look away from these children, and we cannot look away from what happened in Uvalde. On May 24th, 2022, this community lost 19 beloved children and 2 cherished teachers at Robb Elementary School. In the days and weeks following, this community also lost a sense of faith and trust in their own neighbors and institutions as they tried to make sense of what happened on the 24th and were unable to get the answers they needed. During that time, the then mayor of Uvalde called me to ask the Justice Department to conduct an independent review of what had happened and what went wrong on May 24th and in the days that followed. Shortly after, the Justice Department began its review. The Attorney General just gave a sense of the detailed timeline that we have laid out and the cascading failures that occurred over the course of 77 minutes between when law enforcement arrived on the scene and when they finally entered the classroom. But we also know the pain and the failures and missteps did not end when law enforcement finally entered the classrooms and rescued the survivors. It continued at minute 78, when it became clear that because there was no leader, there was no plan to triage the 35 victims in classrooms 111 and 112, many of whom had been shot. Victims were moved away without precautions. Without appropriate precautions, victims who had already passed away were taken to the hospital in ambulances, while children with bullet wounds were put on school buses without any medical attention. In the commotion, one adult victim was placed on a walkway, on the ground, outside to be attended to. She died there. The reunification and notification process for families was similarly chaotic, and as some of the families described, truly deeply painful. During and after the 77 minutes, families and survivors received unclear and sometimes conflicting information about where to go to reunite with their loved ones. Many family members waited at the school for hours without status updates, not knowing where their children were, if they were safe or hurt or even alive. Families searching desperately for their loved ones were sent to different places all across town: the high school, the civic center, the hospital. Some of these details are gut-wrenching. Families hearing about the need for autopsy results as the first indications that their loved ones may not have survived. At one point, hours after the shooting, an official incorrectly told families waiting for their children at the civic center that an additional bus of survivors was coming. It did not. Inaccurate and inconsistent public communications, including social media posts and press conferences, only made things worse. At 12:06 p.m., law enforcement posted on Facebook, reassuring parents that, quote, students and staff are safe in the buildings, close quote. That false reassurance was never corrected. An hour later, law enforcement inaccurately posted on social media that the shooter was in custody. That post, too, was never corrected. Both impromptu and scheduled news conferences and media engagements contained inaccurate, incomplete, and at times conflicting information. Mirroring the failures of the law enforcement response, state and local agencies failed to coordinate, leading to inaccurate and incomplete information being provided to anxious family and community members and the public. We also know the pain following a tragedy like this endures, and that the support this community needs has often been missing. And we cannot talk about what happened at Robb Elementary School without reckoning with the fact that this tragedy took place somewhere all children should feel supported and cared for and safe. Our report documents missteps in school safety preparation that contributed to this tragedy, including that the campus safety plan was effectively a template and included security measures that were not even available at Robb. That there was a culture of complacency around locked door policies, with interior and exterior doors routinely left unlocked. And that confusion over where to find a master key to unlock classroom doors contributed to the significant delay in entering classrooms 111 and 112. As I made clear last April when I came to Uvalde to meet with families, and as we reiterated to families last night, this report not only looked backwards, but also identifies lessons learned and recommendations for other communities to prevent something like this from happening again. No law enforcement agency or community can assume that what happened here, or in Newtown, or in Parkland, or in Columbine can't happen in their community. That is our reality. This report offers 273 recommendations for law enforcement agencies and other officials in every community. That includes a series of recommendations for law enforcement and government agencies preparing for and responding to mass shooting incidents and active shooter incidents as they occur. In the immediate aftermath of an active shooter incident, law enforcement leaders must continue to provide guidance and direction to all first responders, including triage planning to ensure that emergency personnel can access victims as soon as possible. Law enforcement and government officials must provide proactive, timely, and accurate information, notifications, and give community members as much information as appropriate at any given time to help avoid or mitigate rumors, uncertainty, and unnecessary worry. If an organization shares incorrect information with the public, it should be open about it and correct that mistake. In the days, weeks, and years after a devastating attack, survivors, the family members of victims, community members, law enforcement, and other first responders, and their families should continue to be offered both immediate and ongoing trauma support. The Justice Department remains committed to the Uvalde community. Federal Victims of Crime Act formula funds are being used to support victim services in Uvalde, and our Office for Victims of Crime is working with the state of Texas and the Uvalde community to complete the application for supplemental Justice Department funding that is going to enable continuing services for victims, survivors, and their families. And through our COPS office, the department has also awarded the local school district substantial funding over the past 2 years through our school violence prevention program to help this community continue to improve school safety and security. Before we started this review, we consulted with the International Association of Chiefs of Police to build out a team of experts, including several law enforcement leaders who have ably led their communities through mass violence events. I am grateful to those leaders who lent their expertise to us and to our COPS office team for their immense dedication and commitment. Together, the review team's work included reviewing more than 14,000 pieces of data and documentation, including policies and procedures, training logs, body camera and closed circuit television footage, photographs, and more. They made 9 visits to Uvalde for a total of 54 days in this community. They conducted more than 260 interviews of individuals from more than 30 organizations and agencies, including responding law enforcement and survivors, family members, victim services providers, and school and hospital staff. They traveled throughout the country to review generally accepted practices and contemporary active shooter training courses. Other organizations and news outlets have documented parts of what happened on this horrific day. But all of this work has led to a Justice Department report that is both the most detailed and broadest in scope, looking beyond the immediate incident to include the communications, victim services, and school safety aspects of this tragedy, as well as the post-incident response and investigation and pre-incident planning and preparation. The public demands a lot from law enforcement, and we often take their service for granted. Every day, police officers run towards danger to keep people safe. In Uvalde on May 24th, 2022, that did not happen until far too late. Uvalde is a community that is healing, and getting clear on the facts is part of healing. So too are the beautiful, powerful murals all over the city, commemorating each child and teacher killed on May 24th. And so too is enacting change in policies and practices to help make sure these failures do not happen again. While it took time for the Justice Department to examine the facts and put this report together, our commitment to the Uvalde community does not end here. Through available funding, resources, victim services, technical assistance, and training, we will support Uvalde and communities across the country in their efforts to prevent and address violence. Just as we have looked back, we will look forward. We are committed to honoring the memories of the lives that were lost here by working to build a future where all of our children, their loved ones, and their teachers can feel cared for, supported, and protected. I will now pass this to Hugh Clements, the director of our COPS office.
Good morning, and thank you, Mr. Attorney General and Associate Gupta. I know that nothing can take away the pain suffered by the families, the survivors, and the entire Uvalde community. But I do know that the team at the COPS office has been driven to provide an authoritative accounting of everything that transpired at Robb Elementary on May 24th, as well as the events leading up to it and an examination of what happened afterward. As someone with 38 years of law enforcement experience, and 12 of those as chief of the Providence Police Department, I know the importance of having the right policies in place, the right training, and the right partnerships, especially law enforcement partnerships with schools, communities, and other agencies and first responders. This report stresses the importance of those working relationships and how invaluable they are, especially when there's a critical incident. Of course, no one ever thinks something like this is going to happen in their community until it does, which is why the recommendations we provide in this report are so critically important. Unfortunately, the review of the mass shooting at Robb Elementary School is not the first critical incident review that the COPS office has conducted. But having done this before, we know the value of the information provided.
This is not me. This is the stream.
He went full glowy.
Yeah. And
Leadership.
Redacted already.
This was a
Good
failure
God.
of leadership.
okay, so that was so the stream, the original stream, just buzzed off for a while.
Leadership. And so all members of the leadership.
Now it's questions.
Who failed were identified. It also identifies individual officers by rank and by what agency they're from. But the standard practice of the Justice Department in these critical incident reviews is not to name those who are not listed as at fault, and particularly not to name those in lower ranks who acted on the scene.
Next question, please. Case at 12.
I have two questions for you, Mr. Attorney General. Your report here names Pete Arredondo and Mariano Vargas as leaders in this incident that happened at Robb Elementary. Had they acted in the way that was put out as guidelines after the Columbine shooting, would lives have been saved on May 24th?
I think the report concludes that had law enforcement agencies followed generally accepted practices in an active shooter situation and gone right after the shooter to stop him, lives would have been saved and people would have survived.
My second question for you, sir, based on this report, we know at this point no criminal charges have been filed against anyone who responded that day. Based on what you all found in this report, should the Uvalde County District Attorney file any criminal charges for the law enforcement officers who responded that day?
I'm going to leave that question for the DA. Just to explain for everyone, the Justice Department only has criminal jurisdiction where federal crime has occurred. The shooter here is dead, and there's no federal criminal jurisdiction. What we've done is responded to the mayor's request for a critical incident response examination to determine the manner in which the agencies responded and to provide recommendations for the future, and that's what we've done.
Next question. Tribune. Texas Tribune.
Mr. Attorney General, you identified one of the objectives of this analysis to provide law enforcement agencies with recommendations, and there are nearly 300. Which recommendations do you think law enforcement agencies should undertake immediately? What's the most urgent issues?
So the most significant failure, and therefore the most significant urgent thing for law enforcement to do, is active shooter training, which provides that when an active shooter is in a building or anywhere else, the first priority is to stop that shooter and to remove people who are immediately endangered by that shooter. And that requires tactical training. That's the first thing. Say the second thing is critical incident response. Establishing who's going to be the on-site commander, making clear to all other agencies that that person will be the on-site commander. That again requires training and practice and response.
Quick follow-up to that.
One more and then one.
Should joint training be mandated across the country?
I'm not sure what the word mandated here means. I think it's absolutely necessary that in any circumstance where there's going to be more than one agency responding, and that's going to be in any school situation, all the possible agencies should train together in order to establish lines of communication, command structure, and communications structure in particular. Here radios were not interactive. People did not have a way to talk to each other. and make sure that everybody's following the same strategy.
Last question, Uvalde Leader Hughes.
Attorney General, some have suggested that our police response was typical for a mass shooting, in fact, even better than in many cases. And they used the Pulse nightclub event as a comparison. It took 3 hours to go in and put down that killer, and there were phone calls back and forth. How do you speak to that?
So actually, I'll let Hugh talk about specifically about the Pulse nightclub, but I will say that what I've described and what the report describes is clearly the generally accepted response to an active shooter. We did a survey across the country, and the experts who were involved in this examination are experts in exactly this subject of active shooter. And there's no doubt that the standard
Look, the internet got tired of listening to him too.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, that was the press conference. Sadly, cut up and stuff like that. Nothing I can do about it. Sadly. Oops. That one.
How intellectually subnormal were the people that were praising the Uvalde police? Because I believe that we need to maybe put them on a very small and truncated bus and get them away from the windows that they were licking. Because
Yeah.
Windex is not good for your soul.
Yeah. I stored a few things here. From Ken's counseling couch. In the United States, all fire, EMS, and police are required to learn the National Incident Management System, a way we respond to incidents with a unified command structure. Yeah, here's the thing. What they are talking about, they need more training. These should already have been trained. Because that has been in place for I think, over a decade.
And I want to say when this first came out, it was reported, now I don't know how true this is, that they had just received a tranche of money to go over this particular kind of scenario training. Like they had just received an active kind of scenario training. Now, I don't know the veracity of that, but I know it was reported. But I mean, it's been so many years since 9/11. I mean, this whole lack of a standard, you know what, at this point, you don't need a leadership if you hear children screaming. We had the principal of that school go in without anything and ugh.
Yeah. And I mean, for you who don't know, hi, Nick here. I do labor law, and I do a lot about organizations. And if anything I've learned is that if an organization forks up, it's because somebody on the higher level failed. And it goes to something that is called Peter's Principle, which means that in a hierarchic system, you get promoted until you reach your level of incompetence. You start off at base level. You do a good job, you get promoted. You do a good job, you get promoted. You do a good job, you get promoted. Then you stop being promoted. Then you have reached your level of incompetence. And that is why people in leadership need, as with diapers, they need to be changed regularly because they will fill up. Yeah.
Sounds about right.
Yeah. Ken's counseling couch again. The police chief, who was supposed to be the incident commander, purposefully left his radio because he didn't think he'd need it.
I mean, again, if we are going to go after, police for dereliction of duty for other things, this has to be considered a gross dereliction of duty.
Yeah. And just, I mean, for instance, I mean, Dave over at Making Law Simple is doing the Crumbly trial, where the state says, you should have seen this coming, you should have done something about it. I think this Uvalde thing, and the question was in the press conference, will there be any criminal actions against people in the police force? I see better logic in that, because their inability to do their damn duty cost lives.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Yeah. And also, one cop went in to save his kid, and other cops pulled him back and removed him from the situation.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, it's a maddening situation.
Mm.
If there are no charges forthcoming, if they make the police out to be poor, untrained victims, this is going to be a serious black eye. And
Yeah.
and it's already a serious black eye. And it seems like they're leaning toward they just didn't have enough training. These poor police were befuddled and confused and all of the things. And, the communication was on, I don't know, 5G instead of, or, just, they seem to be, if I'm listening between the lines, it seems like we're going to pivot to training and we need more tax money to train.
Yeah.
But I'm cynical, so who knows?
And the thing about, I know that the United States have more school shootings or school attacks than any other country. But the rest of the world have school attacks as well. Sweden, the past 6 or 7 years, have had at least 3 of them with casualties, and they used swords and knives. So, yeah, maybe you can, and here's the thing, maybe you can save more lives if there's absolutely 0 guns around, but you won't save lives, all of them, because people who wants to go into a school and kill a lot of people will find weapons.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see here. So we can, I hope that the DOJ report has less politics in it. So here is the executive summary. On May 24th, 2022, a mass shooting at Robb Elementary School in Uvalde, Texas, shook the nation. With just 2 days left... Oh, hold on, sorry. Forgot one thing. Let's go again. With just 2 days left in the school year, a former student armed with AR-15 style assault rifle. Everything is in a style of something. If it has a bullet, a barrel, and a trigger, it's a gun. Took the lives of 19 students and 2 teachers, physically injured at least 17 others, and left countless families, friends, and community grief-stricken for their imaginable loss. In the aftermath of the tragedy, there were significant public criticism of the law enforcement response to the shooting. At the request of then Uvalde Mayor Don McLaughlin, the U.S. Department of Justice announced on May 29th, 2022, that it would conduct a critical incident review of the law enforcement response to the mass shooting, recognizing that nothing can undo the pain that has been inflicted on the loved ones of the victims, the survivors, and the entire community of Uvalde. The Attorney General stated that the goal of the CIR was to assess what happened and provide guidance moving forward. And thank you to the Gun Club, because it seems like the State House Committee managed to get out their own report before that. And I know, yeah. So they didn't want to wait. I haven't read it, I just received it. But I also know there was a lot of misinformation around the police force, how they conducted themselves. Conflicting information, as in, we couldn't have done anything else, of that stuff of that sort. And whoever said that deserves homelessness and to die forgotten and alone.
Snake Island.
Yep, Snake Island. There's a lot of inhabitants on Snake Island. Or that
I know.
deserves to be on Snake.
I'm going to have to negotiate with Brazil and see if I can pull a China and add more land.
Yeah, and as I said in chat earlier, when they started talking about military weapon, everything is a weapon in the military. I did my military duty. I'm trained from everything from psychological warfare to knives to guns to machine guns to cannons and fist. I mean, a fistful of gravel could be a weapon at a battleground. So it's just buzzwords, in my opinion.
Well, that and the fact is that the Second Amendment wasn't about hunting or anything. We all know it was about defense. They are not confetti, multipliers. They are force multipliers. It is.
And as I read this, and as I read the Second Amendment, if you want gun control, you have to get rid of the Second Amendment, and good luck with that, because it's more or less at around that time, you kicked the Brits behind, right back over the pond, and in my opinion, the Second Amendment is for if a government starts doing the dictatorship thingy, the people should be allowed to pick up a gun and overthrow. That's the whole. In my personal opinion, as a non-US person, that is my opinion. What the Second Amendment is for. I still want to know what an assault rifle is. It's a gun which you can do this with. And if it's an essay, you'd use your love gun. I don't know.
It has a salt shaker attached to it, so you can assault your food.
I don't know. Is this an assault knife? Yeah. I lost the light.
Yeah, it's Friday.
Yeah, it's Friday. Okay, yeah. I will never have a stream without something breaking, misspoken, or me being pissed out of my face. Yeah.
Hey, 2 out of 3 ain't bad. Meatloaf said it best himself.
And no, this was not Mr. Jingles. It was me trying to put down my knife assaulted my lamp. It's an assault lamp. I don't know.
Holy crap, they do things by themselves.
Yeah, and this is not a disrespect against the victims. I'm taking this very seriously, but in the middle of everything, if something happens with my streams thingies, laugh at me. I've been around long enough, so you can laugh at me as much as you want. Okay, let's continue here. A full understanding of the response of local, state, and federal law enforcement agencies and personnel is critical for addressing many unanswered questions, identifying crucial lessons learned, enhancing prevention initiatives, and improving future preparation for and responses to mass shootings in other communities. In providing a detailed accounting and critical assessment of the first responder actions in Uvalde and the efforts since to ameliorate gaps, eliminate, but well, yeah, and deficiencies in that response. The CIR is intended to build on the knowledge base for responding to incidents of mass violence. It also will identify generally accepted practices for an effective law enforcement response to such incidents. Finally, the CIR is intended to help honor the victims and survivors of the Robb Elementary School tragedy. For that to happen, you need to identify the police officers who proved they lacked spine and remove them from their position, and the person who hired them. As I said before, this is not just officer on site problem. This is their superior problem and the leadership within the police force.
I mean, the fact that you had other officers holding people back, you had. Look,
Yeah.
as a parent, regardless of who you are, don't hold me back from my child.
Yeah. And I don't have kids, but I have plenty of nieces and nephews, and so I have nothing to lose. If somebody is trying to threaten one of my nieces and nephews, I don't have kids. I have nothing to lose. Don't be in my way. And sadly and unfortunately, I know if I'm a fight or flight person.
Well,
And this is,
and that's their job. I mean, it's not like you were a cashier at Walmart and we're asking you to do something extraordinarily out of your duty. No, your in fact job is to serve and protect. You should know if you are, afearded of the scary loud bang bangs.
yeah. And that should be in the training. Just, okay, walk down that hall, would you? Why? No, just walk down that hall and then a flashbang or something, just to see if that person is immediately drawing the weapon or is curling up on the floor, crying and wetting themselves. That could be a
Which
good
would be
indicator.
me. So I have no stones to throw. But put my kid on the other end of that hallway and I'm, doesn't matter. But the thing is I know they don't have a duty to protect, but it's a bit like, the police wanting Roxanne to turn off her red light. Well, you met her when she was hooking, sir. I don't know how you expect a leopard to change their spots. But you are all jerks. And I don't like any of you, and especially the douches that tase parents. And I don't know that 600 pages needed all that to say that. But, I mean, the government's a little wordier than I am.
The conclusion should be at page 409. It is not. Thank you. So, still trying to find it. I reached the appendix.
Oh, it's like Lord of the Rings. It has its own Silmarillion. This is great.
Yeah. Another appendix. Oh, crying out loud. Another appendix. I'm so sorry you who are watching this.
That's
This
okay.
should be no. I mean, if it was supposed to be at that page, and it isn't.
Huh. It's just maddening again to see this despite all the lip service being paid to this being about the victims, this has all the earmarks of becoming yet another political kabuki theater
Oh.
goofballness.
Okay, I found it. It was on page 442, not 409.
Woo!
Okay, let's see the conclusion. Now, if anybody is interested, I can go through it all in I don't know, 36-hour stream because it's 610 pages long.
Just a short little War and Peace novel.
Yeah. In summary, the response to May 24, 2022 mass casualty incident at Robb Elementary School was a failure. The painful lessons detailed in this report are not meant to exacerbate an already tragic situation or further the pain and trauma to those directly impacted by the events of May 24th and the subsequent days, weeks, and months. This report provides an independent accounting of that tragic day and the events and activities leading up to June 8th, 2023, when the critical incident review period ended. The CIR team kept accuracy in the forefront while balancing transparency and trauma-informed approaches. The goal is that this report provides answers to those directly impacted while also conveying recommendations and lessons learned to the nation. The CIR team included many recommendations for strengthening preparation and planning, improving tactical and strategic responses, increasing communications, and enhancing post-incident recovery, support, and investigations with the goal to help other communities in the preparation, response, and aftermath. We honor the victims, survivors, and all those impacted with this report. The bravery of the survivors and the lost voices of those murdered on May 24th should be a call to action for our nation communities. That's a really strange conclusion.
That's like, aren't you proud of us for writing this report? We did
Yeah.
super awesome. Yay.
The
wrote all the
conclusions
words.
should be, okay, here is what the failure was. And not just, this is more or less, the conclusion and the forward is more or less identical. And here's the thing, for you who don't know, I spent 3 years in the European Union as a documents analyst. And this looks like something a politician writes when he doesn't want to say something with a lot of words, in my opinion.
Wow.
Okay, but I have one more thing from this. And trigger warning. Remembrance profiles. Nevea Alisa Bravo. Nevea Alisa Bravo, age 10, is remembered as a little girl who always put a smile on everyone's face. Her name is heaven spelled backwards. As part of the Healing Uvalde mural project, artist Brittany Johnson painted Nevea's mural, which included a heart, 2 birds, a rose, and a handwritten note that reads, "I love you." It also incorporates some of her favorite things like purple and pink, butterflies, softball, and the TikTok symbol. The mural reflects cascading curls flowing over Nevea's shoulder, the way she loved to wear her hair.
Do you want me to do this one?
Yes, please.
Okay, Jacqueline Jackie Cesares. Jacqueline Jackie Cesares, 9 years old, was very proud of her new white dress as she showed it off in front of her family when she was celebrating her first communion a week before she passed. She was a social butterfly who loved to be the center of attention. Her family remembers her as a peaceful, loving, affectionate, and compassionate. She would go out of her way to help anyone and make anyone laugh, no matter how bad they felt. She is also remembered as someone who, quote, didn't like bullies. She didn't like kids being picked on. She loved to sing, make TikTok videos, and interact with friends on Snapchats. Her 4 dogs were her world. When artist Kimmy Flores painted her mural as part of the Healing Uvalde mural project, she incorporated Jackie's photo in her first communion dress. Additionally, the mural reflects Jackie's love of the Eiffel Tower. Her bedroom was lined in images of the iconic monument, and she dreamed of traveling to Paris to visit it and to experience French culture. Jackie had started a piggy bank to collect loose change for her trip to Paris one day. Her favorite color was sage green. Jackie dreamed of becoming a veterinarian.
McKenna Lee Elrod, age 10, was beautiful, funny, intelligent, and amazing. She had a big heart and loved her family and friends. It was often said that her smile would light up the room. McKenna loved to play softball and gymnastics, dance and sing, play with fidgets, and spend time with her family. She was a member of the 4-H club and loved animals, including Bailey the dog, Porkchop the pig, Twitty the steer, and Dude the horse. All the animals lived on the family's estate and were a big part of McKenna's life. She looked forward to going to the ranch with her dad to feed animals and ride on the range. The Texas 4-H Youth Development Foundation has set up a memorial scholarship honoring McKenna. She loved butterflies so much that they were released at her funeral. McKenna enjoyed writing notes to her family and leaving them in hidden places to be found later. She was a natural leader and loved school. McKenna's favorite color was purple. She had recently started reading the Bible and often sang her favorite song, The Lion and the Lamb.
Okay. Jose Flores Jr. Okay. Jose Flores Jr., 10 years old, was fondly known as Josedito and Baby Jose. He loved cars, sports, especially baseball. Jose was a Houston Astros fan, and he wore the number 6 on the Uvalde Little League team. He was often described as energetic, and he enjoyed video games. Family and friends say they will always remember him or his big heart, and that he was in a perpetual good mood and always said hello to everyone. His favorite foods include Taki chips, and Cheetos Flamin' Hot. His favorite color was dark blue. When he grew up, Jose wanted to be a police officer and protect others. On the day of the shooting, he had just been honored for his academic work, earning a place on the honor roll. I hate all of these cops now, even so much fucking more. Excuse my French. Nicholas.
I have no sympathy for them either. Elana Ellie Amia Garcia, age 9, was very happy and outgoing. She loved dancing and playing sports. She had just won the basketball championship the previous Saturday. Artist Abel Ortiz, who painted her mural, was part of the Healing Uvalde mural project. Reflected Elle's love of basketball by showing her in her jersey, number 21, which she chose because it was her mother's birthday, with the title All-Star. Ortiz's painting also incorporates her spirit, love of life, and love for Jesus. Elana wanted to be a cheerleader. She loved hot sauce, ramen noodles, dancing, and the Disney movie Encanto. Ellie was buried in a custom-made Encanto dress that the Walt Disney costume design team gifted to her family. The dress was in a favorite color, purple, covered with lilac flowers and cascading ruffles. Elana would light up everyone's world with big smiles and big hugs. She came from a large family, the second oldest of 5 girls, and loved spending time with her little sisters. She loved making videos and was already practicing a choreography with her older sister for her quinceañera party. Sorry for my
Quinceañero.
pronunciation. Okay, that. Even though it was still
Possibly.
5 years away.
I'm still Midwestern, so we just learned to say ombre without an H. So
Okay. Her dream was to be a teacher.
Irma Linda Garcia, 48, was a dedicated mother, wife, and educator, known for her love of family and pride for her children and students. Miss Garcia was married to her high school sweetheart, Jose Garcia. She loved menudo and joining her husband in barbecuing and singing music. Fishing from the pier with her husband and children was another of her favorite pastimes. She started teaching a year after she was married and was nearly 23 years of teaching at Robb Elementary School, 5 of which she co-taught with Miss Eva Morales. She received numerous professional honors, including Teacher of the Year in 2019. Miss Garcia was known for inspiring her students to go to college, and she celebrated her students returning for the senior walk ahead of their graduations. Her spirit is embodied in a post she wrote on social media at the time. Seeing them return to their elementary schools wearing their cap and gown is the reason every teacher in this district does what they do, Garcia wrote. That moment makes all the struggles, long hours, and endless paperwork so worth it. Her husband, Jose Garcia, died 2 days after the shooting.
Oh.
They were both survived by 4 children ranging from 12 to 23 years old.
Whew. Whew. Yeah, no sympathy for the police officers. None whatsoever.
And whoever thought about this mural idea, this is a beautiful idea. I mean, look, the government didn't do a whole lot of good in this, even with the report, but whoever thought of the mural idea, that's incredible.
Yeah. Uzziah Sergio Garcia, age 10, known to most as Uzi, was a loving, smart, sweet, and energetic child. Uzi loved his entire family and anything active such as running, gorilla tag, football, and swimming. He was known for being competitive, but also fair and kind. Uzi had a deep love for Jesus, and whenever his family said, "I love you and Jesus loves you," he would reply, "And Jesus loves you too." He loved a Nutella sandwich with blue takis, which he wanted to get others to try. He was silly, had a contagious laugh, and was known for his shaggy hair. But outside of his silliness, Uzi is remembered for his beautiful soul.
Amory Joe Garza. Amory Joe turned 10 years old 2 weeks before the Robb Elementary shooting. She had spent her morning celebrating her appointment to the honor roll on that last day of school and went back to her classroom to finish out the day before anticipating her mother picking her up to start the summer vacation. Amory is remembered as an outgoing child and a student who enjoyed excelling in class, hoping one day to combine teaching with one of her favorite subjects, art. She loved colored pencils and paint, especially the color purple, playing with clay, and wanting people to have fun. Amory is described as having been the light of the room, or the light in the room with the brightest attitude. She was confident and not afraid to be different, doing things she liked regardless of others' opinion. A daddy's girl, she also loved making things for her parents and brothers.
Xavier James Lopez, age 10, was known as a fun-loving young man who, whether in school or at home, was always wearing a bright smile. And as a 4th grader, he never took things too seriously, often finding time to cheer up anyone who needed it. Still, he was excited about his recent academic achievement, proudly accepting his honor roll certificate. According to his family, He really couldn't wait to go to middle school. Xavier enjoyed having fun with his friends, especially his classmate Annabelle Guadalupe Rodriguez, and summertime activities like swimming and playing Little League Baseball. He learned at the age of 7 to make his father's favorite food, hot salsa. Xavier would sell his salsa to family and friends and use the money to buy toys for his little brothers. His outgoing and fun-loving nature was on display as he carried out pranks and joined in the South Texan partner dance cumbia. He's fondly remembered as a boy with lots of energy. Muted.
Jace Carmelo Luvenenos, and I'm sorry for the pronunciation of that last name. A 10-year-old fourth grader loved attending school as much as he loved his family, living with his mother and grandparents, for whom it was Jace's custom to get up in the morning and make a pot of coffee before heading to school. He regularly expressed his strong ties to family and community through special love notes he wrote his family and the open invitation he extended to the neighborhood friends and classmates who are welcome frequently at his family's home. With an endearing personality and the ability to communicate effectively, Jace was always surrounded by friends with whom he enjoyed playing outdoor games and simply doing fun things. And there were always plenty of refreshments for everyone. His smile was infectious, and he always enjoyed making others laugh. Jace loved his dog, Fifi, and his favorite hobbies included dinosaurs, ninjas, and coloring pictures.
Tess Marie Mata loved her family dearly, as well as her cat Oliver. Like many 10-year-olds, she wanted to follow in the footsteps of her older sibling. She even started saving for college because she wanted to attend the same school as her big sister, Texas State University, where she is now an honorary Bobcat. To honor her life, the Tess Marie Mata Scholarship will be established to help students follow the fifth grader's dream to study the health sciences. Tess also saved money for a family vacation to Disney World. She loved the Nickelodeon show Victorious, and as an avid softball player, she enjoyed following her favorite baseball team, the Houston Astros. She played the same position as the Astros' Jose Altuve, and cheered loudly for him whenever he came up to bat. Tess, known as others as Tessie, had a love for TikTok videos and dreamed of one day going viral on the social media platform. Her TikTok dance video, My Sweet Baby Girl, has more than 200,000 views. Tess was athletic and loved sports. She also loved fancy dresses and pretty jewelry, and will always be remembered for a beautiful smile and signature peace symbol.
Miranda Mathis, who turned 11 years old about 2 weeks before Robb Elementary School shooting, had a huge, loving heart. She was sweet, smart, and shy young lady who enjoyed being in nature and spending time outdoors, where she collected things like rocks, shells, and feathers. Those who knew Miranda remember her great imagination and her expressed love for unicorns and mermaids, especially if they were her favorite color, purple. Miranda was funny, spunky, and very smart. Her family describes her as a sweet, smart, and shy tomboy who enjoyed being in nature and the outdoors. She made a similar impact on her peers. One of her schoolmates added she had manners and she was a bright girl. Miranda was known for her sweet personality, cute smile, and kind eyes. Beyond these, it was her loving heart that endeared her to her friends and classmates. She enjoyed spending time with her younger brother, playing Roblox on her tablet, eating her favorite foods, pizza, tacos, and boneless wings. She had a special love for animals, too. Although at times she was quiet and shy, she did not hesitate to demonstrate her love for families and friends through heartfelt expressions and acts of kindness, for which she will always be remembered. To all of her family and friends, Miranda was loving, kind, bright, and a genuine sweetheart.
Eva Mireles. Eva Mireles, 44, was a committed mother, wife, and educator known for a cheerful and active nature. Miss Mireles had a love for CrossFit, hiking, and spending time with her family. She was known for combining her two passions by getting up before the sunrise to go for hikes during family gatherings. She lived her life to the fullest, with her daughter recalling memories of singing karaoke and reenacting TikToks together. She was an educator for 17 years, specializing in special education. Just a couple of years ago, she helped integrate children with developmental disabilities into regular classroom in the Uvalde area. As one parent fondly remembered, Miss Mireles was a beautiful person and dedicated teacher who went above and beyond. Miss Mireles co-taught 4th grade at Robb Elementary with Mrs. Garcia for 5 years. Miss Mireles is survived by her husband and daughter, who recently graduated college. Are you okay, Mo?
Yeah, I'm just trying to puzzle out how I'm going to say her name. Alethea? Alethea Haven Ramirez. And I'm very sorry if that's not exactly how you say it. Nope. 10 years old, was a bright, talented, reliable, and extremely loving young lady who dreamed of attending art school in Paris. Her family and friends will remember her as trustworthy, always wanting to care for everyone and serving as a role model to her siblings. She also loved to play soccer. Aletha loved the color purple, eating pizza, playing with her two younger siblings, for whom she would create unique characters, often modeled on their favorite Nintendo games or anime. She wanted to go to Paris because that's where famous artists are known to go. In January 2023, an exhibit of Aletha's art was displayed in her dream destination by La Air Arts in Atelier 11. Look, I'm not French, y'all. When Aletha was 8, her best friend, who shared a love of soccer and drawing sketches, was struck and killed by a car. It was devastating, but little Aletha became a surprising source of strength and comfort to her best friend's family. A drawing Aletha sent to console her best friend's parents showed him sketching her portrait in heaven while she drew him on earth, revealing a kindness far beyond her years. Actor and Uvalde native Matthew McConaughey displayed this drawing when he was speaking at the White House. I want the world to see my art and show the world what I can do. I want people to be happy when they see my passion in art, Aletha wrote when she submitted her artwork for a Google Doodle contest. Google honored Aletha by spotlighting her work on the Google Doodle Beeville Art Museum, and then it gives you a link if you want to go there. BAM hosted an exhibition of selected pieces.
Yeah, I tried to clip the
Dang multitasking. No, that gives me a chance to take a break. It's actually kind of a kismet thing, if you will.
Let's see here.
I believe there were, I think.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see here.
I will do a right click instead and see if I can find it.
Hosted an exhibition of select pieces by Aletha in 2022 entitled Eyes on the World, which included 48 pieces highlighting her signature style of incorporating large inquiring eyes.
I can't find it. I would need a direct link, and that wasn't it. Annabelle Guadalupe Rodriguez. Known for a quiet demeanor, 10-year-old Annabelle Guadalupe Rodriguez came from a close-knit family whom she loved dearly, always enjoying the many exciting and fun-filled experiences they shared. Annabelle was a sweet young girl who loved the color blue, especially blue butterflies. She also enjoyed watching TikTok and spending quality time with her sisters and family. She was especially close to her cousin, Jackie Casares, and her dear friend and fourth grade classmate, Javier James Lopez. Their families arranged frequent cookouts together so the children could spend more time together, often playing tag. Annabelle proudly wore a picture of Xavier around her neck at school, and when attending his Little League baseball game, she was also entrepreneurial, running a snow cone machine along with a family who sold hot dogs. Annabelle was conscientious and worked hard in school, earning a place on the honor roll. She rose each morning to first thank God for another day, and would spend her evenings painting her grandmother's nails and braiding her hair. These acts of humility, kindness, and compassion reflected Annabelle's strong values and underscored her remarkable character.
Matei Yolana Rodriguez. Are you thinking is a Matei?
Maite, deep apologies for pronunciations here.
Yes. Okay. Was just 10 years old when she was killed at Robb Elementary School on May 24th, 2022. Matei's mother said she wanted everyone to know that Matei was sweet, charismatic, loving, caring, loyal, free, ambitious, silly, goal-driven, and her best friend. She was determined, focused, and competitive. She was smart, bright, beautiful, and happy. Matei was an AB honor roll student who had high aspirations of doing good in the world, with plans to attend Texas A&M University to become a marine biologist. Matei loved anime, especially Attack on Titan, and all kinds of animals, like dogs, but mostly marine animals like dolphins. She enjoyed Whataburger burgers with jalapenos. Matei was known to be giving, intelligent, and charismatic, as well as courageous. Her bravery was clear. Classmates reported that, faced with danger, Matei lost her life telling classmates where to hide. She will be remembered by her green Converse sneakers, which she decorated with a heart, and by a scholarship named in her honor at Texas A&M in Corpus Christi. Matei is now officially an Islander.
Alexandria Ania Rubio, age 10, was an athlete who loved her family and school. Lexi was a fierce, intelligent girl who had dreams of earning a softball scholarship, majoring in math, and eventually becoming a lawyer. Lexi enjoyed practicing softball and basketball with her father and would practice on her own while he was at work. She was an impassioned debater who loved fishing with her dad, reciting jokes with her mom to see who would laugh first, baking with her great-grandmother, and hanging out with her 5 siblings. Her siblings fondly remember her love of the Lexi Burger, a plain and dry McDonald's cheeseburger topped with fries and chicken nuggets. That's actually, I might have done one of those too.
I mean, that sounds pretty good right now, to be honest.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, not plain and dry, but...
Yeah. Which McDonald's released as a special remembrance on her birthday. She had a love of bright colors, which reflected her bright personality inside and out.
Layla Marie Salazar. Layla Marie Salazar, 11, grew to love singing so much that she sang every day on the way to and from school with her parents. Layla also enjoyed dancing and adored koala bears. She was smart, quick-witted, and full of energy, evidenced by all the activities she engaged in, including swimming, running track, though what was her passion. At 11, Layla never lost a race, taking home 6 first-place ribbons on field day. Layla also made TikToks and other videos singing along to her favorite songs. She was a big fan of the Dallas Cowboys. Her family describes Layla as a super special child who was social and welcoming, and who was always respectful and helpful to family and friends. She enjoyed time with her many close family members, including her brothers, parents, grandparents, great-grandparents, aunts, uncles, and cousins. She had the gift of a loving family both nearby and in Illinois, where she was born. Her grandparents would pick Layla up from school and treat her to tacos, so she was known to ask her grandparents to pick her up often. Her family moved to Uvalde to be in a safer community. But they have now buried their loving 11-year-old child there.
Yayla Nicole Silguero, age 10, was described as a big ray of sunshine with a big heart, especially with children younger than her. Yayla was a lovely little girl who enjoyed the outdoors, dancing, and making TikTok videos. Yayla was also a basketball player. She was very energetic and loved skateboarding, cycling, and playing with her cousins. Yayla and her cousin, Jace Carmelo Luevanos, were both just 10 years old when they were killed on May 24th, 2022 at Robb Elementary, lying next to each other.
Ilana Cruz Torres, 10, was known to the closest to her as Elijah. Ilana was described as a loving, nurturing, and compassionate child who always put others before herself. Family referred to her as Enfermerita, little nurse. Her grandfather recalls how she accompanied him on his prescribed walks after he had heart surgery, and Ileana routinely made sure both her grandparents took their medications. She liked to be silly and loved making people laugh. She also loved TikTok videos. She was said to have the most beautiful smile. Ileana was also an avid baseball player who loved the game and played on a local league whose final game of the season was scheduled for the afternoon of the shooting. She was excited for the game and hoped to make All-Stars. Ileana's father was only a week away from a visit with her at the time of her death. Ileana was said to have made a big impact during her short life, and her family note that she, quote, fulfilled her purpose.
Rogelio Fernandez Torres, age 10, was described by everyone who knew him as an intelligent, hardworking, and helpful person. Rogelio loved everybody and told his family he wanted to make a difference in the world. His teachers referred to him as a difference maker. Rogelio was very outgoing and loved life, showing this by always having a smile on his face and being willing to help wherever needed. He would help his mother with tasks and help his aunts, his teachers, and others. Rogelio was always wanting to do something and had many hobbies like playing Pokemon and video games. He was also very active and loved being outside with his brothers and sisters, especially playing football. Whew.
Beckelin, I think these are actual murals that they put up around the town as a positive thing.
Yeah. Oh, okay. That was rough. I should have prepared Mo for me doing that, and I thought I would go through it myself because I know that Mo with her flare-ups and this, yeah.
No, you're fine. The thing is like we put it in the beginning, this is supposed to be about the victims, so that's the very least we can do for these kiddos and other people that didn't have, people to stand for them. I mean, it's not running into fire because that's not a me thing, but I can read some things, and you know what? They deserve to be remembered, for So it's not it's okay.
Yeah, I mean, apparently the Justice Department and the Attorney General is making politics out of it. I don't. The victims
No.
deserve better than placing them on a political pedestal, in my opinion. Oh,
It's again, it's the grossest form of lowest common denominator politics to take
mm,
bodies and swing them around to bat them at your political enemy.
yeah. And thank you, Choose a Heretic, Choose Carnation Revolution now for your $1 something. Thank you so much. Thank you, Jason J, for your super chat in the beginning of this. Oh, yeah. If there is interest, let me know in the comments below after I am done with this stream, and I will actually read from the DOJ report. It's 610 pages. So if you have 36 hours to spare, I will do. Yeah.
It's going to need to be a boozy stream, and we're going to need to explain to people that curse words are allowed. And if I should happen to add random
Yeah.
screw yous,
Yeah. I might be starting off with 2 hours of white noise, just so I can start off with a lot of F's and C's and every word in the catalog. And if I might teach you a few Swedish words as well.
I'm all for learning the things. I think
Yeah.
I'll go start a fire and have an adult beverage since it's a snow day and I don't have to drive anywhere.
Yay!
I was going to listen to Delphi, but after all that, I think I'll just relax for the rest of the day.
Yeah,
Delphi
you
will
go.
wait. It's
You
not
do
like
that.
the judge is going to get recused or anything.
No, no, and I'm still waiting for. Yeah, for you who don't know the Delphi case, Mr. Allen got his lawyers back, but the Supreme Court would not refuse Judge Gould or recuse Judge Gould. I assume it's because they wanted to give her the chance to do it herself. I don't think she will do it that voluntarily. And I assume that the lawyers will, their first motion as returning lawyers will be to, hey, you, Judge Gould, go F yourself, in lawyery words.
That's called a hell nah motion. Like, hell
Yeah.
nah, we won't be taking
Yeah.
this case in front of you.
Yeah. And I assume she will refuse because she's a C. And
Pretty much.
yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'm going to turn you all over to Laid Back Law.
Woohoo! Let's talk not heavy
with Eric
stuff.
Yeah, less heavy stuff. I will be joining the panel today. Yeah. So, and I'm going to talk about the Long Island serial killer and the new supposed DNA evidence. That will be interesting.
Nicholas, don't you know everyone looks up really, really, really terrible stuff and happens to have their DNA on victims? It's a coinky-dink.
Yeah.
Happens to me every Tuesday.
Yeah, I have, let's just say I have a lot of words that might not coincide with the prosecution's opinion about the DNA evidence. But more on that on Laid Back Law in about 15 minutes. So I will send you all over there so you can like it and scream something, and I need a break.
Yes.
Down. Yeah.
Yes. Holy cow, boys.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you all for showing up. Thank you for the likes. Don't forget to subscribe to me, subscribe to Mo. And yeah, you know what to do. You know what to do. But thank you all for showing up.
Thank you.
And I'll see you in a bit. Okay. Bye-bye.